Great. Okay, so thank you guys for having me today. I think I know a good number of you here. So my background is I'm actually a neuroscientist, and Jose and I hang out together and we do lots of interesting work together that is at the interface of exercise science and neuroscience. I made the mistake of having a conversation with him about sleep supplements. So now here I am giving an informational talk that I did not ask for. But we would like to officially invite all of you guys to come to the Society for formerly known as Society for Neurosports, recent name change, Society for Sports Neuroscience Conference. So if you want to come hang out with the cool kids, that's going to be February 17th and 18th at NSU in Florida. So you can go to the website neurosports.net. Also Society for Sports Neuroscience.net. You can find us there, come register. You can see the full schedule and itinerary. I think we have a lot of exciting talks, so absolutely come hang out with us. We'd love to see you there. So again, the talk that I'm going to give you today is a little bit about this idea of supplements for sleep, the good, the bad, maybe the misunderstood, maybe the waste of money. We'll find out. But as I was going through the literature recently, I did see a paper that I thought, oh my gosh, I have to share it with this group. They're going to get so excited. Check this out, preprint right now, looking at the idea that creatine, and I'm sure Dr. Kando has seen this, it looks like creatine may be a neurotransmitter. So really exciting work coming out of China. We know that there's a lot of really cool work on mood benefits and brain benefits of creatine. So the paper doesn't get too much into that. It's a lot about the methodology they use to demonstrate it as a neurotransmitter. So be on the lookout. It looks like there's new stuff going on with creatine acting as a neurotransmitter. Okay, so when we talk about supplements, so I can increase my protein intake, and that's how I got these biceps. Actually, I just eat a lot of protein. I know you're wondering, like, wow, she's jacked. So it's a little bit more complicated when it comes to taking supplements for sleep. Sleep itself is quite complicated, and we're going to talk a little bit about that and why taking supplements for sleep isn't quite as straightforward as maybe like taking protein and get these huge gains that we all have. Part of it is that when we look at the sleep system, it turns out that the sleep system itself is pretty convoluted. So good for us, right? Good for us. Most of us can't be awake and asleep at the same time. So you can either be awake or you can either be asleep. It would be very dangerous to be between these two situations. And the reason that we are either awake or asleep is because we have this beautiful sleep switch kind of working for us. So the sleep switch is in the hypothalamus. It's the ventrolateral preoptic nucleus of the hypothalamus. And you can probably see here that it really is kind of like a flip-flop switch, right? Sort of mutual destruction. When one is on, the other one can't be on. In the brainstem, we have all these ascending excitatory neurotransmitter systems. Their job is to keep you awake. So we've got the serotonin system coming on, noradrenergic system coming on, all these neurotransmitters, norepinephrine system coming on from locus coeruleus, a rexinergic system in the lateral hypothalamus, really doing a good job. He's like, communicating to these ascending neurotransmitter systems. He's like, hey, acetylcholine, serotonin, noradrenaline, all you major ascending systems, turn on, we're awake, let's be awake. So they're like, cool, we're awake. They inhibit sort of those sleep on cells. However, now it's getting close to nighttime, our suprachiasmatic nucleus is coming online. Maybe we've got some melatonin going up. That's going to tell that sleep switch, the Vilpo, hey, it's time to go to sleep. So now we're going to send out massive projections of GABA and ghrelin to these same ascending neurotransmitter systems. We're going to shut them down. We're going to be like, guys, it's time to just shut down, right? So a lot of this, you can see orexin's playing a big role in activating these ascending activational systems to keep us awake. But at night, what we're seeing, a lot of these systems are inhibited directly by the GABAergic system. And so now you're thinking, because we're all scientists here, you're thinking, well, that's easy. Let's throw some GABA on the brain and we'll all go night-night. And then we have to think, oh, wait, crap, wait, it's not that simple. We have sleep stages. So we go from this state of awake, alertness, we go into this like light sleep stage, and this is wonderful, but oh, it's not going to really help us feel rested. Oh my gosh, let's go into stage 2. Now we're going to get these really random sleep spindles. We're going to get K complexes. Our brain's going to activate neurotransmitter system that's going to keep us asleep. Oh, wow, what's happening now? Wow, we're in slow wave sleep. We're in N3 sleep. Now our brain is so slow. It's like 1 to 4 hertz. it's going to do something really bizarre. Like the cells are actually going to shrink back. We're going to have this lymphatic system come online. Interstitial fluid's going to exchange with the cerebral spinal fluid. Now we're going to be like washing out the brain in this almost coma-like state. Oh, now I got to go back up to light sleep, right? Then we're going to go into REM sleep. Oh my goodness. In REM sleep, your brain thinks it's awake. So obviously we're turning on different systems for REM sleep. Then we're going to go back down, right? Go back up into REM sleep, but go back down. And we're going to do this like 5 or 6 times a night. And the fact that we've got this architecture, this very complicated sleep architecture, really speaks to the reason why it's kind of complicated to throw a supplement or throw a molecule at the system and go, now do this thing, right? Because we can see that the brain is orchestrating this really complex series of events. And you can kind of see that played out here, very sort of simplified idea that we do have these neurotransmitters that we associate with wakefulness, all those ascending system neurotransmitters that we talked about. The workhorses of the nervous system, of course, are going to play a role. We've got glutamate on one hand, GABA shutting things down on the other hand, but now we're going to have the cholinergic, dopaminergic, noradrenergic, serotonergic, histamine, and then really orchestrating the show, the orexin system. We're going into those non-REM, the N1, N2, N3. Now we're looking at those inhibitory GABAergic system, adenosine, melatonin. But 5 or 6 times a night, we got to kind of come back up, go into REM. And during REM, your brain thinks it's awake. Your brain is hallucinating. It's playing movies, largely movies that you're in, right? Most of the time they're scary. And so you've got to kind of trick your brain when you're in REM sleep into thinking it's awake. But we can't turn on all those wake promoting neurotransmitters. That would be disastrous. So your brain goes, okay, let's just get the cholinergic system up there. We're going to only turn on acetylcholine. That's enough to kind of trick the cortex into thinking it's awake, gives it just enough stimulation that we can get kind of this wakefulness activation. It's this really weird period where your brain really is sort of hallucinating in this sleepy state. Oh no, most dreams are negative. We don't want to punch our bed partner. That's probably not going to end well for us. Let's paralyze your body. So now we got to turn the glycine system to get this really careful, REM sleep paralysis going on. So very, very complicated. A lot of turning things on, turning things off. It's really due to the complexity of the system that we see a lot of sleep disorders in little kids. I mean, this is a lot of things changing around in the middle of the night. Their brains are very immature. So we see, oh my gosh, maybe in them, the sleep switch doesn't work so well. Oh, can we sometimes get a hiccup? Yes, we can. Sometimes in non-REM sleep, your brain tries to come out of non-REM sleep. It doesn't quite get there. Oh, now you're sleepwalking. So we see these weird hiccups, usually in little kids. They tend to grow out of it. The best cure for sleepwalking is to just grow up, right? It turns out. Okay, so what do? There are lots of sleep supplements. I walk into Walgreens and I am just gobsmacked by the absolute number of supplements that are on the market for sleep. So it's telling us something, right? It's telling us 2 things. Lots of people are not sleeping well. And if we look at the numbers, about 30% of people have insomnia. That's a lot of people, right? And it's telling us something else. A lot of people are not happy with the fact that they're not sleeping, and they're really trying to seek out some kind of supplement, some kind of medication to help them sleep. So we'll talk a little bit about the supplements that are on the market, how they work, why they may not work. But as a sleep scientist, before we do that, I have to sort of ring my sleep scientist bell and just remember, yes, there are supplements on the market. But the most important thing to keep in mind is that sleep is a core human process. Your brain knows how to sleep. All human brains know how to sleep. They're very good at this. So you go to these hunter-gatherer populations like my colleague Jerry Siegel has, and he goes to the Kalahari San tribe and the Hadza population, and he's like, we're so interested in sleep. We're really interested in insomnia. Talk to us about how you as a hunter-gatherer population deal with insomnia. And of course, this leads to all kinds of confusion, and they look at him and they're like, we don't know what you're talking about, right? They don't have a word for insomnia. So insomnia, the inability to get to sleep, is a huge evolutionary mismatch. This is squarely due to us living in industrialized societies, right? The thing keeping us awake at night, overwhelmingly more than anything else, is not a difficulty with brains not having the right supplement. The difficulty of people going to sleep at night is that they are anxious. Everybody's anxious. Nobody sleeps at night. And this is sort of very clear. So getting the system back online is really quite easy to do therapeutically. But what are we going to do about this? And why is it so hard to put a human to sleep? So we talked a little bit about that, and we'll save a little bit for the end. So if you look at any sleep medication that's on the market, and the most important thing to do when we look at these is to, first and foremost, we don't want to demonize sleep medication. Sleep medication has its place. Even if you take these substances and maybe it changes your sleep architecture, maybe it changes your sleep quality. Yeah, that's not great, but certainly, crappy sleep is better than no sleep, right? So we don't ever want to demonize sleep medication when it's necessary. And these sleep medications do become necessary, things like Ambien, when somebody's in sort of a crisis situation. You definitely want, because there are cases where people have been like withheld from getting these things. What happens? They fall asleep, people die behind the wheel. So you want to always be very careful about, never demonizing medication when it's necessary. The problem with some of these supplements and these medications is they're not really designed to be medications that you take for a long period of time. They're not really meant to be maintenance medications. And that's where sort of that disconnect comes in. But if you look at pretty much any medication that's on the market and most supplements that are on the market, what are they doing? And the mechanism of action that they all have in common is GABA, right? And so we saw earlier, how do you turn off these ascending neurotransmitter systems that are so responsible for wakefulness? You turn them off by shutting down the brain, right? If you increase GABA, you can increase GABAergic binding and GABAergic activity in the Vilpo. That's an amazing way to turn off the brain, right? And turn on the sleep switch. So that's pretty much, most supplements, look at them, they're mucking around with GABA somehow, right? So you've got your benzodiazepines that some people take as sleep medications. These are your anxiolytic medications, and we look at the GABA-A receptor. Yeah, sure, we got a binding site for those. But then we have your non-benzos, your sometimes called Z drugs. They also work as GABA agonists. The Z drugs, people tend to take these more often for insomnia, benzos more often for anxiety, but the two ways to get to the same route. I know there's some indication that people think Z drugs are safer, not necessarily, right? You got your benzos, you got your Z drugs. At the end of the day, they're both mucking around with benzodiazepine binding site, increasing chloride activity in those GABAergic channels. But then we have our natural substances, our natural substances that we want to take. Oh my gosh, it's so good at night to drink chamomile tea. Chamomile tea is so relaxing. Oh, what's it doing? Oh, it's got epigenin. Oh, that's a GABA agonist. Oh, we're getting back to the GABA system. Oh, valerian root, it's so nice, so relaxing. Oh, it's modulating GABA neurotransmission. Magnesium, GABA, and a little bit of NMDA, the N-methyl-D-aspartate glutamatergic receptor. Ashwagandha, so good and so good at calming us down because it increases GABA. Right? What does ethanol do? Alcohol does a very good job at putting you to sleep, can sometimes also make you feel some anxiolytic. I dance really well when I'm drinking. I don't know about the rest of you, right? My anxiety is immediately relieved and suddenly I'm just like the best dancer in the nightclub. So how is it doing that? It's increasing GABA. So it's really all about GABA. It's all about GABA, baby. Except maybe because now we're thinking back, because you're all very scientific and you're thinking, oh, what about that orexin? Because you told us earlier, like orexin, he's the guy. Like orexin is really activating all these ascending excitatory neurotransmitter system. And you're right, you're right. So let's come up with a orexinergic antagonist. This seems like logically this would be a really good way to go, and maybe get some natural sleep, maybe not mess around with sleep architecture so much. And it turns out it just doesn't work that well. Like for reasons that we don't really understand, these DORAs are not super effective. Nothing quite puts you down like increasing GABA. It's again the problem with that is it'll put you to sleep. Your sleep architecture might change a little bit, and this is especially the case with alcohol. Alcohol does a very good job at sedating you. And so some people confuse that. They're like, no, I drink like a bottle of tequila and I go right to sleep. Like, yes, you are sedated, sir. And unfortunately, sedation isn't sleep, right? It's sort of putting you down, but in a different way than natural sleep is. So there's obviously other things maybe that aren't aren't hitting the GABA system, aren't hitting it as cleanly. And so if we're not increasing GABA, what are we doing? Well, we said, what's keeping all of us up at night? Most of us, it's anxiety. We lay in our beds and we ruminate, we worry. I do it. We worry at night, and you're not only do you worry at night, but your brain is rewarding you. Your brain is giving you dopamine. It's like, oh my God, yes, think about all the threats. Please keep going. Things are dangerous. So your brain's in there, you're worrying, you're ruminating, you've got anxiety, and you're not sleeping because you have to calm down your nervous system to turn on that Vilpa system. First thing you need to do, calm down the nervous system. So we're not so good at this at night. So a lot of these other supplements, they're not like putting you to sleep directly. They're just, like we say here, they're just calming you the fudge down, right? They're just trying to decrease anxiety. So with CBD, if you look at the research, it does appear to reduce anxiety. It's a little bit of the Wild West right now, and sort of the type of supplement and the dose. L-theanine does a pretty good job. Valerian root, again, it does reduce anxiety, but it's going to increase GABA as well. Lemon balm does seem to reduce stress, and it's also going to modulate anxiety a little bit. So really what we're looking at now, we've got two major systems at play. One of them is most of the things that you take for sleep, whether it's Ambien, right? Whether it's benzos, non-benzos, a lot of the supplements that are on the market, really helping you go to sleep by increasing GABA, right? All roads lead to GABA. Or, right, the other good way we have is just calming down the nervous system. And if you can do that, you can also help a person drift off to sleep. And so there's that last person, because I know you're thinking like, what about melatonin? You haven't talked about melatonin. And you're like, you're right, I haven't, because melatonin is different. Melatonin is its own thing, right? Because I was listening to some of the talks earlier, and we have all these hormone systems in our body. They love to work, right? They love, like Darren was saying, they follow these loops, right? We've got their hypothalamic, pituitary, whatever, pick your favorite organ loop. And all of these loops have negative feedback pathways. Melatonin doesn't give a crap about these negative feedback pathways. Melatonin is just different, and he's different, so he gets his own slide. Melatonin, unlike, if you imagine, like, how long have humans been on Earth? Like, say, 200,000 to 300,000 years, depending upon which group of researchers you believe. But melatonin has been on Earth for about 3 billion years, right? So this is an ancient molecule. And we know when we have molecules that are old like this, they're pretty pleiotropic. And melatonin is, if nothing, it is a pleiotropic molecule. Because when we think about melatonin, we think about the sleep system, but he's really doing a lot of stuff, a lot of other jobs for us. We know that unlike these systems that work through this nice HP, pick your favorite organ, whatever axis, with very closely regulated negative feedback pathways, melatonin is just different, right? He's released from the pineal gland. He doesn't need to deal with the hypothalamus. He's going to do his own thing. What is the signal for other hormone systems to be released? Well, we can have, again, like ascending cortical thought processes coming down, because now, thank you, I'm thinking about eating a cheeseburger. I'm going to keep thinking about it. So my brain's going to go, oh, Impossible burgers are absolute garbage. These things taste like cardboard. And then I'm going to be thinking of a juicy cheeseburger. And just those thoughts alone, they're going to activate my lateral hypothalamus, right? Now I'm going to have ghrelin release. I'm going to think I want a cheeseburger, but it really is just this hormone system, right? My thoughts alone activating this hormone system. Melatonin doesn't quite work this way. So the signal for melatonin is light, right? So we have these very fancy schmancy intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells. They live and die for the sunlight. They live and die for short wavelength, 450 nanometers, bright light. So a lot of us have melatonin suppression, right? Melatonin suppression at night, because we have our lights on, right, at night, and then we have a little bit of circadian rhythm issues, because first thing in the morning, those signals are looking for, those IPRGCs are looking for natural sunlight. So we kind of set the system in the morning, and then we want to have no light at night so that we can release melatonin. So absolutely, you can go to Walgreens, you can buy your favorite melatonin gummy, but the reality is your brain's making it for free. So, and you can tell your clients this, or the people you work with, the signal for melatonin release in your brain is just two things have to happen. It has to be dim, at night. It has to be dim and it has to be night. And as long as those two things happen, you're going to release melatonin naturally. That's not to say that melatonin supplements don't have their place, because certainly as we get older, nothing good happens, right? Like my mile is not as good as it was. I'm forgetting things. So as we get older, maybe melatonin, it's just a little trickier to get. So that, older adults maybe get some benefit from melatonin supplements. But the thing that's a little worrying is when you go into Walgreens, you're like 10 milligram melatonin, awesome. But a biologically relevant dose of melatonin is like 2 milligrams. And when you start getting above that is where you start getting into issues where now it's still in your body in the morning, or because we said, all those crazy things that happen during sleep architecture. So now you've got melatonin in your system, and oh my gosh, you've got these crazy dreams, these really, really vivid, you would pay money to have these experiences when you were awake, just very vivid, wild dreams with melatonin, high doses of melatonin on board. But we want to make sure that even if again, you don't natural melatonin, store-bought, whatever you do, you want to recognize it is critical. So melatonin release for us is antioxidant, anti-tumor. It's really working for bone formation, bone protection, antioxidant, cardiovascular benefits. So the trick with melatonin is you want to avoid at all costs melatonin suppression at night, right? You really want to release melatonin. If we look at shift workers who are awake at night and awake in the day in the light, that have lots of melatonin suppression, lots of health consequences to that. So we want to just think about sort of light regulation. So for us, we did do a study looking at melatonin. This was funded by Nature's Bounty, so that would be my conflict of interest on that one. And what we saw was really interesting because we said earlier, close relationship really exists between mood and sleep, and you can't really affect one without affecting the other one. If you're worried about something, you have stress going on, this, you're just not going to sleep as deeply. That deep sleep, that N3 sleep, is really where that brain is cleaning itself, where you feel really restored. So we just did a very low dose, 0.5 oral spray melatonin, some small changes to sleep. The job of melatonin isn't necessarily to put you to sleep, or the job of melatonin really works to regulate your circadian rhythm. But what we saw, surprisingly, for those participants who had self-reported insomnia, the people who had the most sleep complaints at baseline, they were struggling the most at baseline, what we saw was when they were on melatonin treatment, lots of improvements to mood, right? Some small changes to sleep, but really what we saw was positive changes, better, less anger, less confusion, less depression symptoms, fatigue management was better, overall mood disturbances were better. So we saw some really nice benefits there. The other thing I didn't necessarily talk about was when you're in REM sleep, and this may be why that increasing melatonin may help. The reason your brain is scaring the crap out of you in REM sleep is not to be a jerk. I mean, your brain's a jerk, yes, but it's doing this really to help you process your emotions. So very close relationship between how much REM sleep you're getting and daytime emotion processing. Take REM sleep away from people, now you got like depression and anxiety, right? So that really close relationship. So that's what we're seeing in our lab. Right now we're doing an interesting study with looking at lucid dreaming as maybe a sleep-dependent mechanism that we can improve emotion processing.
Jamie, sorry to interrupt you. Oh, look at that.
Baby, I'm a professional.